So I'm actually a Spartan, and it's actually cool to say that. Full state, right? So when Marty Scaturo, does this house sound good?
Yeah.
When Marty Scaturo called me to do this and said, come speak to the DMAA, I was like, yeah, for sure, I want to do that. And she immediately said, you know, take a step back to your real estate days. Take a step back to when you were involved in apartments and development. And I'm thinking to myself, it hasn't been that long, so this should work. But I found myself in Florida a few weeks back, and I was in Sarasota, and there's a park called Mayberry State Park right by where my parents live. It was a little bit of a long vacation. We were all kind of cramped up in a house, ready to kill each other by the end of this. But this morning I was hunting, and I was in this park, and there are deer, alligator, raccoons, coyotes, wild boar, and I'm walking around hunting, and I wasn't hunting with a weapon. I'm gonna be clear, I was like in a state park. I didn't even have a pair of binoculars with me. I was actually hunting down, creating some relatable content for this speech today. And I was, of course, one with the animals, visually, kinesthetically. I'm kind of hardcore, like I'm a Jew that hunts, right? I'm like Ted Nugentberg. And so I am out hunting this morning. I know it sounds like you're like, whoa, that's kind of an interesting spin on hunting. But to me, hunting has always been far more about the pursuit of a goal and not about killing. And when you bow hunt, like I do, you spend a lot of time on the stand hunting and not necessarily a lot of time releasing arrows. And so it's really about hunting down the things that you're after. And today, as we get into this, we're going to try to define for each of you what are the targets that mean the most to you. And if you hit those targets, what would like change the game for you? And we're going to get into that, and we're going to use a cool platform to do it. But to start jumping into this, I want to go through some of the most famous hunters that have ever lived. Mother Teresa. You see, Mother Teresa hunted down social inequality and social injustice amongst the world's most afflicted. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah hunted down unimaginable success, right? She did this in a male-dominated television industry, and she empowered millions along the way while doing it. And today, Oprah hunts for better education in Africa. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was the ultimate hunter. Steve Jobs hunted for perfection in design. He hunted for minimalist, intuitive use. In fact, Monday was the 4-year anniversary for an iPad. Think about that for a minute. Tablets, which are guaranteed in every one of your households, probably in your purses, in your briefcases, in your packs right now, have only been around for 4 years. Safe to say Jobs did some successful hunting along the way. And Apple, still to this day, hunts off of the playbook set by Steve Jobs. And so it turns out, actually, that we are all hunters. It's not a question of whether you're a hunter. When I'm done today, you'll know that. It's a question of, are you tapping, right, that predatorial instinct that's primal in each of us, and are you using it to go hunt down the targets that mean the most to you? Because when we forget about this killing thing and we focus on pursuit of a goal, everything begins to change. And so with this whole speaking thing, it's been really cool. I've gotten to speak at Facebook in Menlo Park. I've gotten to go speak at Quicken in Phoenix. I've spoken to big law firms, accounting firms, organizations, associations, outdoor companies, internet companies, advertising companies, and it's been a riot. But what I found consistently true is that the best companies, the ones that own their markets, those are companies that are the best hunters. And the best employees inside of those companies, the best leaders with those companies are the best hunters. And in my book, I get into that, and today we're going to get into that. And there's a reason why Josie Bass and Wiley Publishing bought my book as a first-time author. And there's a reason why I think we're almost at 100,000 people following me on Facebook and growing every day. And there's a reason why this platform is working. And it's because it's so clear that really we are all hunters. So it's just a question of, what are the targets that you want out of life? What are the targets that you want to hit? right? Are you hunting for growth for your families, for your communities? Are you hunting for a new car, maybe a new apartment? Are you hunting for a relationship, an intimate relationship, a business relationship? Are you hunting for a new deal, a big deal? I know Matt Lester hunts for big deals. And if you're hunting down those deals, if you're hunting down those relationships, are you getting what you want out of these situations? Today, we're going to get into having some fun, and we're going to get into a platform. But first, I want you to take out, there's a piece of paper, take one of these David Farbman massive logo thingies on the thing, and grab one of those things. There's a lot of things. And what we're going to do here is I want you to think about what are 1 to maybe 2, 3, could be 4, but probably 1 or 2. What are 1 or 2 targets that if you could hit those targets, they would change the game for you? Right, and so I'm going to play some, what I think is, well, you know, this is like age appropriate. We got some Van Halen. I think everybody will dig it. And Facebook, they were like, really? Did you just do that? Let's see. So think about what would do it for you. Is it a better relationship with your spouse, with your children? Is it a new job, career change, a financial goal? It's just about what's important to you in the hunt of your life. Okay, cool. Everybody's set. Everybody's got their targets zeroed in. You got them down. And remember, you can always go back and change them. Soon you can go to the website, download new sheets if you want, or we'll give you more of them. So what we're going to do now is talk about the 7 steps to the hunt system. And I really hope it's relatable. I know it will be, and I know you guys are going to dig this, so let's have some fun. So step 1, identify obstacles. So what's happening here is you've got this little boy looking at a shadow of himself, but he's seeing this monster. And this happens to all of us, right? How many times have you found out about a problem or a potential issue, and you, in your own head, start freaking out? You think of the absolute worst case scenario of what it could be. Has anybody ever done that? Okay, me too, like 7 hands. And so then, once you actually get all the data, you get the information, what do you usually feel? What usually happens? Right? It's like no big deal, right? Little, nothing, not a big deal. So that's losing perspective, and that's an obstacle. And other obstacles come from fear, shame, guilt, doubt. All of these things mostly started as like childhood issues. They started somewhere, and along the way you let these internal obstacles block you from hunting down the things that you want. Right? You're sitting in a deal, you're sitting on a big date on a night, and something tweaks you in the 11th hour, and then the date doesn't work out the way you wanted it to. You and your spouse get in a big fight, you get pissed off at one of your kids, you screw up the meeting or the deal because you lose sight of the target. And so what we're going to do is talk about identifying and converting obstacles. So day to day I run a company called Nuco Health today. And Nuco Health is a revenue cycle company. And so what we do is we work with hospital systems, or partner with them, and we put highly trained consultants in place that help everything in the billing process for a hospital. So from the time a patient's called up front for a preset appointment, to collecting money from a patient, to the way the coding is done, to the insurers, we help hospitals lift their revenue. And we get paid based on a piece of gain share. Whatever we increase revenue by, we get a percentage of those dollars. Unbelievable startup company running a 40% EBITDA in its first year. It's awesome. And these people are super smart, But like anybody, they can get wound up over issues. So we're in my leadership meeting, and I'm presenting this opportunity that I'm like really psyched about. It's a $2 billion healthcare organization. It would double our business. And I'm like, this is a $2 billion healthcare organization. We can grow out of state with it. This takes our business to the next level, guys. You know, everybody's sitting here, and then the obstacles start, right? So Harry, my COO, bless his heart, but he's skeptic. And he says, we're gonna have major staffing concerns. This is a problem, it's geographically a concern. I don't know if we can do this. And then Peter from across the room says, I'm worried about their culture. You know, they're such a for-profit hospital. I don't know if our models are gonna work together, right? Obstacles thrown at you. So check this out. We're gonna convert this together, and anyone can do this. The first step is you gotta get curious, right? You gotta ask questions with an open mind, focused on the target. So it breaks down like this. Harry, you know, I feel you on the staffing concern. So if we had a site lead and we had a couple of managers identified and maybe an analyst, would we feel better about being able to staff this thing? Well, yeah, obviously. And we say, oh yeah, for sure. We don't even need an analyst. Just get a site lead, a couple managers. We can augment it easily, no problem. Cool. So before we kick off a search to find these people, what does anybody know of internally? All of a sudden, Ben raises his hand. Wait a minute. Linda, who I worked with when I was at McKinsey, would be perfect. She could step in and run this site. She's 100 miles from there. She wants to make a change, and she knows all sorts of managers. Cool. Can we set this as an open target, guys? Yeah, for sure. Okay, how about 30 days, we'll identify a site lead and 2 managers for this facility. Oh, that's easy, Tiffany says. We can do this in 15 days. Great. Let's set an open target. Ben, you're going to own it to convert this open target. So right there, what we're doing is we're changing an obstacle into an open target. The cultural one came up. I said, guys, I'm confused, right? We run a 40% EBITDA business. We're trying to build a $500 million company in 5 years. What is the problem if it's a for-profit thinking hospital system working with us? Well, you know, it's probably not really an issue. Okay, can we call it a down target? Yes, cool. Everybody agrees, down target, no problem. Yes. That is how you can take an obstacle and convert it to a down target or convert it to an open target. And you see how much easier one issue sounds as soon as there's buy-in across, but it has to start with getting curious, and you've got to keep an open mind. So you've got to be willing to be wrong. I'd be wrong all day long if it resulted in hitting targets, because it's not about being right, it's about hitting the targets that you're after. And you could do this in a relationship, you could do it with yourself, you could do it consistently. So step 2 is about peak activity window. So when you hunt and you fish, you get out of bed like really early in the morning. And we don't just do it because we're like, sweet, I want to get up at 3:30 today, this is awesome. You do it because the peak activity of the animals that you're hunting or of the fish that you're fishing, they're moving at peak activity at those periods. They're feeding, they're on the hoof, they're moving around. Well, the same thing is true with us as people. Each one of you has a peak activity window. I guarantee it, you all have a peak activity window. You're either a rooster, where you've got that AM 3 hours, shocker if you can't figure it out, I'm a rooster. You could be a hawk with that midday 3 hours, or you'd be a bat with a nighttime 3 hours. The belief is that you're 10 times more effective in your peak activity window than you are at any other time throughout the day. So think about the math on this. If you leveraged 3 hours every day, full on, times 10, it's 30 hours a day, times 5 days a week, it's a 150-hour advantage against the old you or against the competition. And you don't want to be doing emails, checking Facebook, checking texts. Throw that thing out, get it away from you, and focus on the things that actually matter to you. If you want to hit those goals, you got to identify and convert obstacles. If you want to hit those goals, you've got to be leveraging your peak activity window. I will tell you that there's no way I write a book and run multiple companies if I did not leverage 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. every day. It also can adjust, right? If you get less sleep, you might have to bump it an hour. And sometimes you could actually you could interchange one to the next. You're probably not going to be a rooster and a bat. You might go rooster into the lazy rooster or the hawk. So there was this company that I had the pleasure of working with recently. There was a private equity group, some YPO guys or Young Presidents Organization guys that had me do a job for them on a software company that they had. And they had an online mortgage company. They were approved to lend in all states. And their numbers were not good. And obviously, if you follow the financial markets right now, that lending market's cooling off a little bit. And there's been some decline in the space. And so they said, look, we want to get out ahead of what's about to come, and we want to figure out how we get things humming. Would you be willing to do it? I said, sure, let me see the business. Let me take a look at what you got. And after looking at it, I said, okay, you got 114 people on the phones right now, but how many are producers? I said, 21. I said, all right, cool. When are all 21 people going to be in town? So, well, at the end of the month, they'll be here for an all-team meeting. I said, cool. I said, give me 30 minutes with all 21 people. It'll be an all-day deal, and I'll just power it out. So what are you going to do? I said, let me do what I do, and you guys do what you do, and let me see what I can figure out. Truth is, all I wanted to do was identify the peak activity windows, because it was obvious to me that this company was not looking at when are people most productive, when are people working it. They were just saying, you work it at this hours, you work it at these hours, and they were shifting people all around with how they were working the country. And I thought, man, if we could just focus in. I mean, honestly, and I know it's bad, I didn't care about the other 90 people. I want the 21 that are moving the needle, right? It's 80-20 in anything. You got to focus on that 20%. So we got these 21 people. I figure out all their peak activity windows. And I said, are you guys willing to let me shift your business for a quarter so that you'll actually adjust the way people are working the phones? They're like, yeah, for sure we would do that. I mean, let's get the numbers moving. I said, all right, great. Within 1 quarter, rate locks were up 51% in the company. Their financial performance was up close to 30%, and they were counter-cyclically working against the slowdown by leveraging peak activity window. And obviously, not every professional grounds company, not every apartment management company or leasing company or apartment guide and marketing company, you can't always just adjust your whole business to peak activity window. But individually, you absolutely have the power to be selfish about taking that peak activity window. And I will tell you that my wife knows, so do my kids actually, that from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. if I'm working at home that day, do not walk in that office door, because that's my time. And it sounds selfish, but it's not selfish. It's actually what's going to get you the weekend time so that my wife doesn't want to freaking kill me on a Saturday and Sunday, and I can be focused. And Lester, who lives across the lake, his wife anyway, who I think is the early riser, can confirm, because I do my rehearsing of speaking right in front of the window in the kitchen starting at 4:30, that I am a hardcore rooster. And so I really believe it's critical. Leverage that peak activity window. It makes a massive difference in the productivity. Was when that peak activity is up, so is productivity. All right, step 3 is about getting above and getting clear. So hunting always took place on the ground, right? You tracked, you stalked, you moved on the ground. The problem is that with big game hunting, a lot of times you don't have enough visibility, right? You can't see properly from on the ground. Worse yet, you're on the nose level with your prey, and if they have a good nose, you're going to get busted because of your human scent that they're going to pick up. So you're at a disadvantage. And so what happened over time is we learned that if you climb up into a tree, you can get above and get clear. When you climb up into a tree, you can develop that hunter's vision. Well, the same thing is completely true in business, in life, and in every relationship, right? When we're down here, we're like stuck in the ego, right? It's that same over and over, and you're sitting here going, why am I going back to this place again? You're doing it because you're not watching a situation, you're in it, you're the judge, right? Stuck in the situation instead of getting up here and being the scout or the watcher, and you can watch the situation. So this is cool. You might say, oh, it sounds kind of abstract. It's not. It's actually easy. And I'm going to tell you how you get this going pretty quickly. So first of all, you're going to know that you're going there when you're sitting in a meeting and all of a sudden you have this like inner smile. I mean, you might show it on the outside, you might not. I'm a smiler, so I'm always smiling, but you may or may not show it. But all of a sudden you'll be like, oh my God, I'm totally just doing this right now because I want to be right. It's got nothing to do with wanting to hit the target. So I have chosen to simply say, you know what, my ego just got out of control. I'm sorry, let's get back on point. You'd be surprised how well that works. Because the other side's like, whoa, that was unexpected. And so the reality of it all is, the way to practice this is take 10 minutes at the end of every day. 10 minutes, that's all you need. In your car, do it in your house. I like it in the car with like meditational music, something like that. And if you're visual, visualize it. If you're kinesthetic, you're a feel person, feel it. If you're auditory, think of the words. And play back like a movie the day. Whatever happened from the time you woke up to the end of it. When you hit those points where you're like, ooh, really I said that? You know, or oh, that was not good, I lost focus. That's how you start to spot not being conscious or not being above it. And what you're doing, believe it or not, by doing this exercise is you are consciously training your subconscious to get above and get clear. Because when you watch it, it doesn't mean you're not in the conversation, but you're saying to yourself, not gonna go there. Right? Like how many times are you sure you're gonna go in and the goal is to go close the deal or get it done, and that tenant on the other side or that landlord or that whoever that is says something that just tweaks you, and you just take the bait and you're like, da, 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 da. Next thing you know, you lost all focus on what the target was. And so this whole thing's about getting the targets. It only matters if you hit the target. And the way you're gonna get there, right, is to identify and convert obstacles. Gotta do that. Gotta leverage that peak activity window. And then you gotta start to get above and get clear. So Dan Gilbert is a guy that understands staying above the noise. Gilbert doesn't care when we all chitter-chatter, what the hell's he buying another building downtown for? What's he doing here? Why is he doing this? He's doing just fine. I think he's like in the top 300 billionaires in the country or something, in the world. And so Gilbert got there, and Quicken became the empire that it has become. He's becoming this gambling tycoon because he understands how to stay above the noise, not worry about the ancillary things that don't matter and get in the way of the targets that he's after. But watch, you will begin to start knocking more targets off when you do more watching and less like judging. All right, so we've now kind of getting to step 4, and this is where it starts to get fun, right? So I kind of dig the authenticity. Speaking of authenticity, I'm taking this jacket off. So authenticity. Be real, be authentic. This is my shoelace, by the way. It's like my blankie. So if you see that, it's like I have carried this since I was a kid. And so be real, be authentic. Now, when we talk about shedding camo, first thing you think about a lot of times with authentic is big personality, but that's not what authentic means. Authentic is about being real, right? Authentic is about asking for what you want. One of my best friend's moms as a kid said to me the most true thing. She says, if you don't ASK, then you can't GET. And it's the most true statement ever. So the way that we can start to get this authenticity thing rolling day to day is walk into a meeting, walk into a date, a relationship, and state your desired outcome. I know people are like, no, you do that. But if your desired outcome is to get the deal closed, walk in and say up front, my desired outcome is to get the deal closed. The worst thing the other side is going to say is, well, that's not going to happen, but okay, cool, let's negotiate to what can happen to move things forward. But when you don't ask, you're just not going to get. And so part of being authentic is about being transparent. It's about being real. And I mean, all right, if you're in some litigation with a complete jerk, fine, maybe listen to the lawyers. But the reality of it all is, as a whole, ask for what you want. You would be amazed when you do that. My wife and I have this whole thing, because she's highly emotional, and believe it or not, I have a little bit of an emotional side to me. And she's finally gotten to this place now where she'll actually say to me, look, my desired outcome for tonight is this, or my desired outcome here is that, right? I mean, sometimes it's like, how about not like 1,000, maybe like $500, And so she basically knows to go for 2x what she's looking for, and it works. So to dig this one home and get apartment relevant, we're going to go to Matt Lester at Princeton Enterprises. So I've known Lester a while because he has a place up north nearby, and I've always been fascinated by how straightforward he is and what he's thinking about. And so what Matt did was, when the market took a dump, Matt said, forget about this whole lawyering up thing, right? All the big apartment groups, they lawyered up. They dug into their lending documents and they said, there's these provisions, we gotta watch these things, let's get ready for litigation with these banks. And Matt Lester took a totally different approach. Matt said, what the heck, let's just schedule meetings with all of our lenders. Let's go in, put it on paper, sit down and show them where there's gonna be softness. Let's show them where there could be a coverage issue with a loan. Let's talk about industry-wise where markets are gonna get soft, right? C markets might drop 5 cents into the high 60s, and A market might drop into the 90-cent range. Let's go through what we see, and let's take this opportunity to build more authentic relationships and more real relationships. Well, needless to say, it paid off pretty well. The business more than doubled in that stretch, I believe. I think it's something like 20,000 units today, and growing every day. And I will tell you that I know several people that invest with Matt Lester, and I'm not exaggerating because I think it's like ridiculous. They give him checks ahead of time and say, hold the money in an account. I don't even care if it's interest bearing, because I don't want to miss the next Matt Lester or the next Princeton deal. That is authenticity. That is authentic relationships working well. So what you can do to start getting those targets that you're after is start with laying out a desired outcome. Be clear. And by the way, desired outcome cannot be right. Desired outcome has to be moving the ball forward and has to think about what that desired outcome looks like. And I've been told sometimes mine are a little ridiculous. All right, step 5 is about increasing power through leverage. So a lot of people hear leverage and they think, oh, it's like a negative term. No, not the case. But let's look at what's happening here. You've got this hunter on the ground hunting this saber-toothed tiger, right? Well, so the problem with that kind of hunting was that, like, a high percentage of the time, the hunter died in the hunt. And then he came back and then nobody was eating, right? So over time, a slingshot came out. Over time, the flintlock and the gun came out. Over time, binoculars came out, compound bows. These are leverage tools that help a hunter be more effective, right? There's tools today for organization, for apartments, for what you're doing that are sitting right there that can be leveraged. I will bet you everything I got that there are relationships that you have right now that you are not seeing that could leverage your way out of problems that you don't even realize are there. So check out this water, right? You look at it, you say, is this glass of water half empty or half full? All right, so the optimist will always say it's half full, right? The realist or pessimist, I like my brother's kind of the realist slash pessimist, and so he always says it's half empty, right? But really, both answers aren't right because it's full. What you're not seeing is that half of this glass has air in it, right? You can go 9 days without water, yet you go 90 seconds without air and you die. And so the question is, where is there air in your life that you're not seeing? And here's a way you can start to use leverage. So the way to do this is write a problem down, whatever you think it is, or a goal that you're after, and then start with the people that you know that are directly related or the key gatekeepers that are in the way. And then look at the next tier of people that you know that might have connections to those people, and then people that might have a further connection at the next tier. And then what happens is, as situations present themselves, you start to put them into place. And what happens over time is you actually create what I like to call a leverage jet stream. And when you get a leverage jet stream going, everything starts to feed and work in life. And so Edward Rose and Sons Apartments, This is a great example of a leverage machine. Now, if you know anything about their debt structure, you might sit here and go, what are you talking about? They have like no debt. Exactly. Edward Rose and Sons leverages their non-leveraged position. They leverage their balance sheet. So in a down market, when there's no financing, if there's a housing need, Rose and Sons Apartments just says, cool, we'll build it. We build it with our own cash anyway. If in a down market, if rents have to slide down, they don't have much debt, we'll drop rents. They do what they need to do. If they want to push rents up, they do it on reputation and on communities and on what they have. They work economies of scale to the fullest. They leverage everything. And so should like everybody in here. Because without leverage, those goals you really want, the big goals, they're very difficult to hit. And so maybe stop. If you did have a negative connotation about leverage, start to see it more from the standpoint of everything is leverageable that's out there. And I know it sounds kind of beautiful mind, but when all of a sudden you're clicking in a leveraged jet stream, you'll be driving one day and you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't see it. It's because it's the error that you're not seeing that's right in front of you. All right, step 6 is about executing with real-time precision. All right, so about, oh God, it seems like forever ago. A number of weeks back, I was hunting in Missouri, just on the edge of the Iowa border. See the biggest buck that I mean, in Michigan, we don't see a lot of huge. This buck comes out of the woods, and I'm just like, oh my God. You know, like compose yourself, Farbs, compose yourself, Farbs, compose yourself. And I'm bow hunting this animal, and the usual me would have done nothing to call at the deer. I'd just be like, I'm gonna wait, just, hopefully he's coming, hopefully he's coming. Hope is not necessarily always a plan, by the way. And so in the moment, I could see how rutted up he was. He was pushing does all over the place, and he was a stud. And so I decide I'm gonna call him and get aggressive. So I had rattling horns with me, which I don't know why I usually bring them, because I don't even use them, because in Michigan you rattle, everything runs away. And so I rattle at him, and I get super aggressive. On a dime, he turns and comes to me. And I got him. He was unbelievable. And his best buck of my life, actually, with a bow. But the point is, that happened because of executing with real-time precision. You know, I remember Lester telling me one time that when a market's moving, you have to be able to feel or see the ground moving underneath you to know when to pivot or when to make moves, because that's what executing with real-time precision is all about. And here's a good way to look at this. Princeton Enterprises successfully played fluid with the market, doubled their business. Borders Books, not so much. Borders Books heard in board meetings for years, what are you guys doing about your online side of the business? Get this, Borders owned the original technology that linked catalog to the internet to sticks and bricks. But they so much didn't see this that they actually licensed it to Costco, to Sam's, to Kmart, and they gave away their technology. And then, to make matters worse, they had Amazon fulfill their online side of the business. They said, no, buying books is all about going to a bookstore, having a cup of coffee, sitting there and spending time. Right, everybody wants to waste time in a bookstore today. Right? I mean, wow, failure. So the point is that when we leverage the fluid moment and trust what's there, we want to be the Netflix, not the Blockbuster. We want to be the Amazon, not the Borders. We want to be the Princetons, not the ones that go the other way. And so step 7 is where I like to start having some fun. And this is about fighting through adversity. And this is a story about me. In 2006, my brother and I started to realize that some of the commercial-backed markets, some of the conduit markets, and the lending side were going to cool off. And I had always had this vision to start a professional hunting league. Like literally since I was a kid, I've always wanted to do this. And as I said earlier in the beginning, I've always thought hunting was far more about the hunt than it was the kill. So in that light, I decided that I was going to start a non-fatal professional hunting league. And I actually patented a way to administer a tranquilizer through an arrowhead without killing an animal, so that I thought it would get more mass scale to have a competition that was non-fatal. And I thought, this is gonna be huge. So I ran out, I raised millions of dollars. I ran out and signed hunters all around the country. I leased the best ranches. I was like ready to tear up the world of hunting, right? Like I'm a Jew that hunts. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna own this space. They don't even know what's coming, right? Yeah, it doesn't always work quite the way that you hope in business and in life. And at that time, the World Wrestling, WWE, had gone public. And I'm looking at Vince McMahon like, dude, this guy's a dork. Like, he's got nothing on me. I can smoke Vince McMahon. I'm gonna be a billionaire. I'm gonna build this into the biggest thing ever. Everyone's gonna love it. Well, after doing the press conference and pushing it out there, it didn't quite go down that way. At first, I was on CNN, I was on ABC, CBS, PR Wire, everywhere around, and I even was on ESPN around the frickin' horn. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. And then that night, I was searching through the web, and really not positive articles started surfacing. Really bad posts started surfacing. And this was happening on outdoor relevant websites. So hunting sites, shooting sites, fishing sites, outdoor sites. Kind of an important element in the equation of trying to create a professional hunting league. And the basic message was, Farbman and his ego-boosting tour will destroy the sport of hunting. Or hunting is about killing. It's not about competition. And I'm like, yeah. I go to the buck hole, I'm like, hey, you see a little spike horn? That's my buck, that's sweet. I mean, what? Not about competition. Like, everything's competition. But somehow, in a very short time period, I had managed to piss off the NRA and frickin' PETA. Right? Like, who gets caught in that pickle? I could be the only person to ever align PETA and the NRA in one shot. I mean, whoa, right? So we're now in this spot where I'm freaking out. And then death threats start. I had 86 death threats. And so now I'm getting married at the time to Nadine, and I have to like worry about my safety. I got no business model. My hunters start dropping off the tour. I'm burning money like you're tossing it into a campfire. And I have no model, and I don't know what the hell to do. I had lost all perspective. I was terrified. I haven't spoken on, so I get a little emotional. So, but I couldn't even go out in public. I literally did not want to be seen in public. And I'm like a guy that loves to be out in public. I love to get out and go to the restaurants, do things, move around. I didn't want anything to do with Baco. I didn't want anything to do with anything. I just wanted to sit there and pretend that I was going to fight this wrath on these websites. And we wasted all this time and energy fighting this thing. And then one day, I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go up north, and I'm going to go climb into the highest tree stand. And until I have a plan, I'm not coming down from that tree. And so I climbed up into that stand, and I had an old BlackBerry 8600. And I mean, the internet sucked. So I'm like going through getting these emails, and I start reading these emails, and they were attacking emails, right? So the subject lines read, "We must kill this initiative," or "This initiative must be capital STOPPED, stopped. David Farbman needs to be stopped." And I mean, everyone that was anyone was copied on these emails in the industry. And I'm like, oh boy, this is not good at all. And then the media started coming against it. It just got bad. But I noticed something on those emails. I noticed that there were a few names that didn't seem to fit the rest of the names that were on these emails. And then with really slow internet, I figured out that these were lobbyists that were copied on all of these emails. And I started to think, aha, I know I pissed off the NRA and probably every other group. Maybe this is all more of a smoke, maybe this isn't as real as it feels right now. So I'm gonna have to get a hold of these lobbyists. I'm gonna have to go to Washington, DC, and I'm gonna have to fix this, because if I don't, I'm gonna run out of money, and I don't think my investors are gonna give me high fives for that. And so I got on the phone, and I called these lobbyists. First one, "Hey Pat, it's David Farbman, World Hunting Association." "Yeah, I know exactly who you are, what do you want?" Well, I was hoping to tell you about what I'm trying to accomplish with the WHA. I think that it's awesome. My goal, Pat, is to change the world of hunting forever and to grow the sport. Yeah, but you're not changing anything forever. The only thing forever done is this business is finished because we killed it. Well, do you think that I could come out to DC and meet with you guys and at least explain what I'm trying to do? Sure, you're welcome to come out. I don't think there's much use. Anyway, I go out that next Friday. I'm on a Delta flight out. I had the two most repulsive people sitting there. I mean, I was like, are you kidding me? And they're sitting here between me and the plane. One is coughing, the other one's sneezing, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, now I'm gonna be sick on the way home. So I get in and I meet with Pat, and I walk in, and I will tell you what I did. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say, I basically got down on my knee, right? And I begged for help. I said, my business reputation's on the line. I've got a bunch of my capital on the line. I have investors on the line. All I want to do is something great for hunting. But I'm not going to be able to accomplish this without your help. I need your help. And amazingly enough, they agreed to help me. And what I've learned is that when people are way over here or they're way over there, when you just come straight, real and authentic up the middle, watch the targets come to you. And it really does work like that. And then I was able to leverage one lobbyist to the next lobbyist, and then that lobbyist got me in to see Cabela's and Bass Pro and all the players in the industry. And I began to turn people that were harsh adversaries into my allies. And then they said, of course, you're going to need to morph the model. And I knew what was coming next. The non-fatal thing's out the window, you're going to kill the deer. I thought, oh, this is what this was about. And then I started thinking, was it really all about that? Or was it about doing something that ultimately could change the world of hunting forever? And was it about protecting my investors' money and gaining some momentum? So as a result, I did make a change. I pivoted, right? Real-time execution, pivot. And no matter what idea you try, no matter what relationship you're in, there will be moments where you have to make uncomfortable pivots. It's part of life. But you do it because you want to hit that target, right? You do it because that target is what matters to you. And when you make those pivots, it can make all the difference. So we held our first tournament. You're thinking, was it sweet? No, it was a total disaster. Anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But we got some really cool shows cut out of it. And with these shows, I was able to go to a TV station and get somebody hooked. And so I was just about done, and on Monday I was supposed to get the deal finished. Well, Monday came and it passed, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Friday I get the call, it's too controversial, we can't touch it. I'm just like, oh, can I get one break in this deal? So I'm at home that night, bawling my eyes out, sitting on a couch, talking to my wife. And I said, I just want to quit. I got some of this money left. I'll return it. I'll work the next couple of years. I'll pay back the investors. I can eat my investment, and I just go back to the way it was and screw it. And she says to me, you know, you've flipped people that hated you into your friends. Like, you've got momentum. Don't quit now. Do what your dad says you always do. Land on your feet, David. Morph it into something. And shoot, I don't know what it was about those words, but that night I was walking around my house and I started thinking, wait a minute, those websites that crushed me, those websites, they weren't monetizing. There was no ads to speak of on any of those websites, right? So being a real estate guy, I'm like, why couldn't I go in and represent all the advertising space on these websites, right, as an exclusive broker or rep, and then aggregate the audience and sell the advertising to big advertisers. So I did just that, and then the business morphed again, and today it's Carbon Media Group. Today, next to ESPN, it's the second largest male audience on the internet. A private equity group or a strategic player tries to buy us quarterly. I have a new leadership team in place that's doing an unbelievable job running it, And I'm back out trying to change the world of hunting forever, speaking and going after the goals that I'm after. And so in the beginning of this, what I was going to ask you was, how many people in the room hunt? And how many people in the room hunt? But what I think everybody should see is that by the end of this, that really we're all hunters. It's only a question of what are the targets that mean the most to you. My hope for everyone here is that you can go and hit the targets that mean the most to you, because we are all hunters. Thank you.